Hello, this is Greg Stumfel, Chairman of the Libertarian Party of Michigan, and this presentation is called Running for Public Office as a Libertarian in 2020. This presentation was originally going to be given at the tail end of our state convention on April 4th, but then ran a little bit late, and so I am doing it now. All right, so the things I'm going to talk about today are which offices are on the ballot in 2020, how to file for those offices on the federal, state, and local level, then how to actually get nominated by the party at either the county or state conventions, and then what the affiliate and state parties' responsibilities are in that process. We'll then talk about the paperwork really quickly, reporting waiver, and then we'll talk about campaign finance in just a quick couple of slides at the state and federal level. So, offices on the 2020 partisan ballot. As a minor party in 2020, the Libertarian Party of Michigan will nominate candidates by caucuses or convention rather than by primary election. So this year we have 1 U.S. Senator, 14 congressional districts, all 110 state house districts, county, township, and village offices. There'll be 2 positions each on the State Board of Education, the MSU Board of Trustees, the U of M Board of Regents, the Wayne State Board of Governors, and there will be 2 positions on the Supreme Court, and there will be 16 presidential electors because we don't actually vote for president. Our state convention this year will be at Treetops Resort in Gaylord on July 18th, 2020. And I'm really looking forward to that because that looks beautiful. It looks green and outside, and we've all been cooped up, and I think everyone would love to go run around that golf course right now. So, as a so-called minor party this year, these are some of the rules for candidate nominations. All candidates for partisan public office are nominated at either a state convention or county convention. The affiliates will nominate candidates that are within their county. Candidates running for statewide offices or offices across county lines are nominated at the state convention. However, local candidates can also be nominated at the state convention. And I want to stress this next point. Even before receiving the party nomination, candidates can still file with election officials to be considered a candidate for a nomination under election law. This allows prospective nominees to raise and spend money. This is not a requirement to receive our nomination. As soon as you do spend or receive any money, including buying a domain name, you are considered a candidate under election law, and you must file what's called a statement of organization within 20 days. You're also considered a candidate once you receive our nomination, and we'll go through filing that form in just a little bit. So federal offices on the ballot in 2020. We've got all 14 congressional districts and 1 U.S. Senate position. Incumbent Gary Peters is up again this year. And I want to point out that this will be the last time that these districts will be used. Following the next census, we will be redistricted, and we will never have gerrymandered districts again, thanks to the Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. So that'll be interesting to see how those will play out in 2 years from now. How to file for a federal office. Earlier I said everyone needs to file a statement of organization. You do not need to for federal office. That is specific to Michigan. Candidates for federal office should register with the FEC though. This is not required unless you plan to spend more than $5,000, which triggers federal campaign finance reporting. Even if you do not plan to spend above that amount, it's still recommended to legitimize your candidacy, as many media outlets use this site to find out who is running for Congress. You are also not required to file with the FEC to receive the Libertarian nomination. This is just something we recommend because it makes your candidacy look more professional. We will go to the FEC's website real quickly. This link will take you to how to register as a candidate. And down here is how you register for the House, Senate, or presidential candidate committees. The most of this talk will be focused on Michigan and local offices, so I won't go through this process today. All right, back to our PowerPoint slides, hopefully. And this also, I'll be sharing these slides with everyone, and so these hyperlinks, and I do have examples of various forms and websites throughout this presentation. All right, state offices on the ballot in 2020. The entire state, the state legislature, just the House, is up, all 110 districts. The state Senate is not. That's only in governor election years. There'll be 2 positions each on the State Board of Education, Michigan State Board of Trustees, U of M Board of Regents, and Wayne State Board of Governors, and 2 positions on the Supreme Court. Even though that's technically a nonpartisan office, it does require the nomination of a political party, and we're the only state in the country that does that. So how to file for state office? As I said, you must file the statement of organization. You have to file it within 20 days of becoming a candidate. And you become a candidate when you receive our nomination, or you send and receive any money for your campaign. And so let us go through that process. So this is where statement of organizations are filed. We will file as a candidate committee. And I'll go to some options. We are not another committee type, such as a PAC or a ballot question or political party. That is not for this. It is not an amended form, and it is not a county filer. We'll go through that process next. So we'll continue with this action. And so this is the form. We would go to Libertarian Party or other parties if you are so inclined. And then the office sought, like I just mentioned, although note many of these are not actually on the ballot in 2020, but they would be in 2022. Your committee name must include your first and last name. I will also ask you about a treasurer and a record keeper. You are allowed to be your own treasurer and record keeper. You will be asked about a bank. You have to include one, even if you don't plan on spending any money. So I just recommend you put your bank. And right here is the reporting waiver. If you plan on spending less than $1,000, you are not required to file any additional campaign finance paperwork, with one minor exception, which I will go through later. So back to our PowerPoint slide. Again, some of those frequently asked questions. I just said your committee has to have your first and last name. You can be your own treasurer, put a bank, and the reporting. And then information on the Bureau of Elections website. There's a lot of information on this website, but it can be a little overwhelming and cluttered, and I haven't gotten used to the new format with the new Secretary of State. And again, for the PowerPoint slide, you can go through this and see the process. And I highlighted the reporting waiver because I recommend everyone check that. You can uncheck it later and file an amended form if you do end up spending more than $1,000. But for default, everyone should check that. Local offices in 2020. The partisan races will include your county races, township races, and most village races, but not all. The local races that might be on the ballot that are nonpartisan could be city, school board, and community college board. You also have to file a statement of organization. However, you file that with your county clerk, and that is an actual form that you have to print, fill out, and mail in. And here's the form. This one is specific for, says filed with a county clerk. And it's basically the same information that was on the web form for the state. And here's the reporting waiver. And so this would be printed, signed, and mailed out or hand delivered. Back to our slide. Now, local candidates are subject to the same campaign finance requirement as state office filers. However, local candidates file with their reports with their county clerk. Again, this is the form, and I highlighted the reporting waiver. So, how do you actually get nominated? All the things I mentioned before are mostly for campaign finance reporting and are required, but usually not until after you get the nomination. So, how we're planning on doing things in 2020 is after the national convention, but before the state convention, all of the county affiliates will have conventions. They will select candidates running for office that are within a county. Usually we have the county caucuses remain open until the end of the state convention. That way candidates that are wanting to run can also come to the state convention and get nominated. Once you're nominated, also at these county conventions, we will be selecting delegates to the state convention. And each affiliate is apportioned a certain amount. And there'll be the same apportionment that was used for the convention we just had to pick our national convention delegates. Once you're nominated, then there are two things that you have to fill out, apart from the statement of organization, which we just went through. And I'll go through those forms later. They're called the affidavit of identity, and that must be notarized, and a certificate of acceptance. The county chair and secretary then have to write a letter to the county clerk listing the candidates nominated and their addresses, known as a certificate of nomination, and we'll go over that in a minute too. And all this paperwork must be filed on Monday, July 20th. That's one business day after the close of our state convention. This is the current Libertarian Party of Michigan affiliate structure. We have 12 affiliates. They are colored in on this map. 7 are multi-county affiliates, 5 are single county affiliates. And then the areas in white are unaffiliated, and those candidates will be nominated at the state convention. This is subject to change before the state convention. Anything, there could be potentially rearrangement. So stay tuned for June, and more formal announcements will be made as to when these events will take place. At the state convention on July 18th, that's where candidates will be nominated that are running for statewide office or offices that cross county lines. Remember, local offices may also be nominated at this convention also. Just like getting the nomination at a county convention, you would still have to fill out the affidavit of identity and certificate of acceptance. You don't need to be present to receive our nomination, but please make arrangements to have your paperwork sent to us or election officials. And then the state chair and secretary have to write a letter to the Bureau of Elections listing our candidates nominated and their addresses, known as a certificate of nomination. And this also must be filed in Lansing on Monday, July 20th. Once candidates have been nominated, if they haven't already, they have 20 days to file their statement of organization. At the state convention, candidates running for nonpartisan office, such as school boards, city officials, or judicial races, may seek our endorsement. And our bylaws actually don't address whether or not we can endorse independent candidates. We cannot endorse candidates for other political parties. So the two forms I talked about, the certificate of acceptance and affidavit of identity, these must be filled out by all candidates, county, local, state, and federal. They're both short, so if you are nervous about having to fill out a lot of paperwork to run for office, have no fear. These are both not much information is required. This one, the affidavit of identity, does need to be notarized. So I urge all county affiliates to have a notary available at their convention so that they can get the paperwork taken care of. One thing to note, is the affidavit of identity is for all candidates. So if people that are running in the primary, which we are not this year, this is where they would check off the number of signatures or a filing fee. But because we're a minor party, we get nominated at a convention, so that's where the certificate of party nomination and certificate of acceptance come into play. And both of these links work and will take you directly to those documents. The certificate of nomination is not an actual form. It's just something, it's just letterhead basically where we list our candidates. The one on the left is the certificate of nomination that for the state party when we held our state convention in August of 2018. And then the one on the right was an example of one sent to the Wayne County clerk listing the Wayne County candidates. And so what will happen is whoever files this will also take these forms and take them to the county clerk or Lansing with them. So candidates don't actually have to file anything themselves. Party officials will take care of that. Candidates do have to do the statement of organization though on your own. So I mentioned earlier the reporting waiver. I urge all candidates to check that. Once you spend more than $1,000 though, then you do need to file campaign finance paperwork. The only exception to the reporting waiver is something called a late contribution report. So what that means is if you get a late contribution is a contribution from the same contributor with a cumulative of 500 or more between the 15th and 3rd day before an election. So if someone gives you $500 between October 24th and October 31st, you would have to report that. But if you're not planning on spending that much money, then you don't need to worry about that. However, simply spending less than $1,000, you can do a lot with your campaign. You can respond to candidate questionnaires and interviews from the media, civic organizations, and advocacy groups. You can attend and speak at candidate forums. You can create a campaign website and build a presence on social media. And you can print or purchase campaign literature to pass out. But I do stress, the moment you do spend money on your campaign, you have 20 days to file your statement of organization. The next few slides, I'll talk a little bit about campaign finance laws. I urge you to actually read through some of these links and don't rely on information I say specifically. Campaign finance reporting is not that hard. It just requires you to keep careful records. So there's some useful state websites here and a nice PowerPoint that goes through a lot of the information too. If you're interested in doing reporting, then I urge you to read through these. I just want to remind you the reporting waiver is $1,000. There's a $5,000 threshold for online filing. And once you spend that much, then you have to do electronically through this website called Michigan Electronic Reporting and Tracking System. You must also, if you receive any campaign contributions, open a separate bank account for your campaign. And most banks will require you to get an employee ID number in order to open an account. Some quick Michigan campaign finance laws. Anytime you get a contribution, you must record the amount, date, the donor name, and address. If anyone gives you more than $100, then you have to record their occupation and employer. Those are direct contributions of cash. In-kind contributions are goods or services donated to the campaign. For these contributions, you must report their fair market value and a frequently asked question. Cryptocurrency is considered an in-kind contribution. Maximum allowable campaign contributions for different offices. The only one this year is a state rep. No, the statewide candidates too, like State Board of Education, you could get up to $6,800 from a single individual. Candidates have no spending limit on their own campaign. Maximum cash contribution is $20. No anonymous contributions. They must be donated to charity. and no contributions directly from corporations, labor unions, or sovereign nations. For all expenditures, you must record the amount, date, purpose, the name and address of business or individual, and the maximum cash expenditure is $50. If you do file campaign finance paperwork, you'll have reports due before and after the election. And I also mentioned that late contribution report also. Technically, you would also have to file campaign finance paperwork for our convention, because that's considered an election also. But if you do plan on doing the reporting waiver, that's just something to note. Or if you plan on not doing the reporting waiver, that's something to be aware of. You can also check the reporting waiver before and then amend it later if you do decide to spend more than $1,000. And you are always able to amend your statements at any time. Federal campaign finance laws. The FEC handles all of this. Michigan doesn't. Reporting waiver is $5,000, so you can spend up to that without having to file. Anything over $50,000 requires electronic filing. The maximum allowable amount anyone can donate is $2,700. If they get more than $200 from someone, then you have to record their occupation and employer. Federal candidates should register with the FEC, even if you don't plan on spending $5,000, because that's where media and civic organizations get their list of candidates to cover. And there's some help for candidates here. Some things to do sooner than later: get your employee ID number. That's a quick process, but it does take a little bit of time. Get your bank account set up, get your domain name and web hosting situated. And I urge everyone to get set up for Facebook advertising quickly, because that is a cumbersome process and takes several weeks. For those people that really want to know the specifics of what I was talking about, these are the Michigan statutes that deal with minor party candidate nominations, and then 2 statutes that deal with candidate nominations made at conventions, which apply to all parties. So that concludes this presentation. I will leave you on this nice slide of outside, and urge everybody to attend our July 18th, 2020 convention and run for public office as a Libertarian this year.